Okay, then, should we, do we need to wait for anybody else, or should we show on the road?
I think we're ready.
I think we're good.
All right. Do we do introductions? We don't do introductions on these stuff, do we? I forget. It's been a while.
Typically not in the subcommittees,
All right.
just to save some time.
I just got off of my work computer onto this computer. Can somebody call the first action item on the agenda, since it's not introductions anymore?
It's the Osseo Road reconstruction, Hennepin County 30%, Amber Klein and Kelsey Ford.
Let me see if I can go ahead and share my screen real quick with you guys. Okay. Can you see my screen, guys?
You see
Yep.
it?
Perfect. So, like I said, my name is Amber Klein, and I am the Hennepin County Project Manager for the Osseo Road Reconstruction Project. The county is leading the project along with our consultant, Jeff Rhoda from AECOM, along with our project partners, Minneapolis, Kelsey, the Minneapolis Park and Rec Board, and Metro Transit. So our project Osseo Road runs from Penn Avenue all the way up to 49th Avenue, which is part of the County Road 152 corridor. This piece is a connector between the newly finished Brooklyn Boulevard reconstruction project in Brooklyn Center and the Weber 44 reconstruction project, which will be starting construction early next year. Currently, Osseo Road is a 3-lane road section with an on-street bikeway that connects with the Ground Rounds Trail through the Victoria Memorial Parkway. There is also existing sidewalk along the east side of the roadway with portions of walk along the west. The existing roadway has reached the end of its service life, so we are replacing the pavement, the curb and gutter, the sidewalk, and drainage elements. We are currently at a 30% design level and are looking for city concurrence of the layout so that we can move forward in a final design in 2021 and construction to start in 2022. The initial design, which was developed based on community input, technical considerations, was presented back in July via virtual open house and here at the August BAC meeting. So after reviewing some of the feedback that we received from the community and working with our project partners, we have made some modifications to the typical sections and the geometry, which I'll be presenting to you in these next few slides. So with Osseo Road being a very kind of diverse corridor of businesses, residential, and the regional trail, we kept the corridor separated into the 6 major roadway typical sections. The major change in our typical section is that we are transitioning to a single trail on the west side and adjusting to 2 sidewalks along either side of Osseo Road. Next, we will jump into some of these typical sections. So starting on the north end, this left typical section, we are matching into the existing roadway with the 2 11-foot travel lanes and both a left and right turn lanes at the 49th Avenue intersection. And then the part that is changing, we have 2 5-foot boulevards. We are providing with a 10-foot trail with a 6-foot sidewalk with the 1-foot detectable edge between them on the west side and the 6-foot sidewalk on the opposing side. And then on the next section, on the right typical section, this is our bridge typical section. We are keeping with the 2 11-foot travel lanes with outside 5-foot shoulders, which is not changed from our original geometry. The part that again that has changed is the 10-foot trail with the 6-foot sidewalk, the 1-foot separation, and then on the opposing side is again the 6-foot sidewalk. The next section is our main roadway section, this highlighted green piece. In this section, we were replacing the in-place 3-lane section and outside bike boulevards with the two 11-foot travel lanes, which is again the same as previous design. The part that is changing is the two 5-foot boulevards with the 10-foot trail, 6-foot sidewalk with a 1-foot separation, and then on the opposing side is the 6-foot sidewalk. Scroll there. So here is something new. We have some renderings of this section. So we are looking south at the Osseo Road and 47th Avenue intersection. At this intersection, we are showing the proposed BRT station, the proposed RRFB. You can see the trail, the walk with the foot separation, the 6-foot sidewalk on the other side, and then the grass boulevards.
Can I interrupt real quick?
Yeah.
I realized I forgot to do something, and that something is to ask if anybody wants to volunteer to take notes or minutes. Is my mic muted? Can anybody volunteer to take notes or minutes?
Chris, I'll try to take notes. This is Dan Miller.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
And Paul, did you have a question right away? Or should we just wait till the presentation's over? All right, let's proceed. I think he is on mute or he doesn't have a question right now.
Okay, there's have time for at the end for questions if anybody have questions. So the next section we'll jump into is the B and C section. So the left typical section, we transition to the 3-lane section with the left turn lane at the Memorial Drive and Memorial Parkway intersection. Again, this part has the roadway remain the same. The adjustment is the 10-foot trail, the 6-foot sidewalk, and then the opposing side is also the 6-foot sidewalk, and then the 5-foot boulevards, which was previously at 7 feet. And then on the right typical section at the Victoria Memorial Parkway and Grand Rounds Trail intersection, we introduced the raised median to define this left turn lane and for additional ped and bike safety. Again, this part was the part that was adjusted is the 10-foot trail with the 6-foot sidewalk with the 1-foot separation, and then the opposing sidewalk on the adjacent side. Oh, I skipped right over it. So again, here's a rendering of this section. This time we are looking north at the Osseo Road and Victoria Memorial Drive intersection. At this intersection, we are showing the new proposed signal, the proposed median, and the new bike and ped crossing. You can also see the trail and the walk on the west side, and the 6-foot sidewalk on the north side. So the last section we'll go into is from Queens Avenue to the Penn Avenue intersection. There we go. At this section, we continue the 2-foot travel lanes and then the raised median, and only the 6-foot sidewalk on either side with the 5-foot grass boulevard. We end the 10-foot trail at the Queen Avenue connection into the Minneapolis Queen Avenue Bike Boulevard. Here's a rendering again of this section. We are looking south at the Osseo Road and Penn Avenue and 44th Avenue intersection. And in this rendering, you can see the continuous raised median, the 2 travel lanes, the outside grass boulevards, and then the 2 sidewalks, 2 6-foot sidewalks on either side of the roadway. So Thank you for letting me come back and update you on the proposed layout and sections. Feel free to visit the project website. Also shown is my contact information. And with that, we can open it up to questions and comments. We can either run back through the presentation, or I do have the layout as well too.
I think we'll just move to the layout when we need to. Nick, do you have a question?
I don't have a question. I'm gonna just start with, this is gonna be a negative, very negative comment, because I'm definitely unhappy and upset to see not just 11-foot travel lanes, which I can deal with. I know we're talking about getting smaller, but 11+2s and 12+2s, I just my mind is a bit blown that we're still looking at that much space, and knowing what that vehicle width can do to speeds. And for those people, like, the trail looks good to me, but I know that some cyclists are going to end up on the street, and we also know that wider distances are going to be encouraging speed. And I won't be supporting a resolution that has an 11+2 and a 12+2. So that's it.
So some of the reason we do have the 11-foot travel lane is due to the D line, the proposed D line and the C line, the Metro bus BRT that runs along the corridor. Their recommendation is the 12-foot lane, along with the 11-foot lane, along with kind of a county standard is for us to do an 11-foot lane. In the median sections, due to snow plow widths, we do need a minimum of 15 plus for our snow plows. So we are kind of limited on the minimum width we can put through those median sections.
I understand that. I just don't see how we need the lane width to be that we're talking about. Like, yeah, I think we can get to 15 feet without having it be that configuration, I guess.
Anybody else with further comments, questions?
This is Matthew. I'm just curious, how are a lot of our narrower streets plowed so efficiently when they don't have 15-foot lanes? Most streets in Minneapolis don't have anything. Sorry, I should give a little more background. Most streets in Minneapolis don't have anything approaching a 15-foot lane, and they're plowed very efficiently. Is the blade on the county plow really 15 feet wide? What's going on here?
Yes, that's what we double checked with that. Our maintenance crew, I guess I don't know what the width is for a city plow, but we verified with our maintenance crews that they have, it's like 15.2 something. That's what it was, 11, 15. Yeah, or 14, just over 14, just under 15. I have to double check what that is. And it is from the edge of the flow line to flow line is why that has to be that wide. I don't know with city streets if that's not the face of curb to face of curb distance, because we have that median in specifically from Victoria Memorial Parkway to Penn Avenue with the median in there, which we kind of, the median is there to help with the Penn Avenue curve that kind of goes through there. It helps to direct traffic and also reduces that overall lane feel because of that median. But it has to be at least 15.
Okay. Can you also speak to the 5-foot 5-foot shoulder on the bridge? That seems excessively wide.
I think there's regulations in the RRF or the bridge manual that specify that they don't want that extra distance in sidewalk width. There's something to do with the design of the bridge piece that we need to leave some of that for roadway piece. And it's also to reduce a lane due to emergency vehicles. We need that extra space if there was a stalled vehicle or head-to-head traffic that an emergency vehicle could get on there. So they require some of that to be shoulder width that's on there.
I wonder if that's worth reviewing further. I think about a bridge like the Franklin Bridge over the Mississippi River, which is a Hennepin County bridge. And I don't think it is that wide. Having driven it, I think it's much tighter than having 16-foot effective lanes each way. So I think that's worth reviewing because such a straight shot and such a wide roadway is really going to lead to speeding. I mean, it's just kind of human nature. I'll love it if every driver looked at the speed limit and just followed that, but that's not how it works. That's kind of it's wishful thinking. So this really seems like an overly dangerous design and an unnecessarily dangerous design. So I'm kind of leaning towards Nick's position to say, I don't see how we support this. It's got a bike trail, that's nice, but it doesn't have some of the most basic safety features that you'd want to see in something that's built to today's standards.
So originally this is a 3-lane section with on-site bike shoulders. So we are removing one lane through most of the corridor, along with also removing the on-road bike. So we are significantly changing the footprint of the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's no doubt you're improving it based on the what's there today. But in my mind, that's not necessarily the standard to start from. The standard would be what's the safest thing you could build, and to build the safest possible thing. Because this will be like here for decades. So it doesn't seem optimal to build something that's going to encourage speeding.
Are you looking for an answer for that, or can we move on with some hand raising?
Yeah, I'm ready to yield the floor to the next person.
Okay, Matthew, you had a question? You have your hand up?
Yes, 2 quick thoughts. One, I'm just in terms of the maintenance piece with the 15, I'd be curious if maintenance staff said that they prefer 15 feet or if they need 15 feet, because I think those may be different things. I wonder if they could make it work for short stretches, where there is the median, because it is a short stretch. And so I'm just wondering if that is a key difference. I'm guessing that the blade, itself is not 15 feet wide, and that they want a little extra room. So I'm just curious about that. And then the second thing is, you had noted that the bikeway would end at Queen Avenue, and I'm just wondering, because I know that we want to make improvements in the connection to Queen Avenue, but there will be folks that will still want to, they'll still want to bike to 44th Avenue to make that connection. And that's what we have identified in our transportation action plan that was just recently passed days ago. So I'm just wondering about that, and even if it just turns to shared use paths, if space is a constraint, just for that short stretch, there will be people biking in the street, and I'm just wondering if we could make that change.
I think we can look at it. Some of the other reason that the trail was stopped is the connection into the bike boulevard, but also the space constraint as well too. There is currently encroachment along Queen Avenue to 44th, particularly with buildings. But I'll make a note to maybe it's something that the trade-off is to reduce the grass boulevard or to remove the grass boulevard and to put in a shared use path could be an option.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, Wes, your hand is up.
Yeah, so I had a question particularly about kind of speed mitigation right at the curve, right by I think it's the Torrey 44 building. It's just my understanding that there's been some treatment there already, but that there continue to be particular issues as vehicles around that turn that have resulted in property damage over the years, and I was just wondering if you could speak to any new considerations that are coming in there. I'm just curious, kind of what's the scope of that.
Yeah, so part of it is changing the overall curve. It's still the limited right of way that's in here. We still have a curve that is below design speed, which is the 30 miles an hour through here. I think our curve is now at 25, so there will be some advisory signs that get put up. But our approach into that curve, kind of in here, you're kind of directing them kind of as what you see into a roundabout to slow traffic down. You kind of veer them left to veer them right to help slow down. And again, putting that median in there, even though it is a 15-foot wide facer curb to facer curb, you're still reducing that lane width through this piece that ultimately will hope to slope traffic down, direct them. It's more of a rounded curve than a sharp curve. And the added curve piece on 44th Avenue intersection here will also help to direct traffic. We are removing the right turn lane at the Penn Avenue intersection to reducing that throw width, which ultimately is a traffic calming, reducing that lane width through that piece.
Thank you.
Tyler.
Yeah, hey, so I'm wondering, we're talking about speeds and things like that, and I'm wondering if Amber, if you could just talk a little bit about what you might be adding as far as vegetation. I know trees go a long way to kind of bring scale down and make things a little bit more less open and less speedy.
Yeah, less speedy. Yes, our intent is to look at some plantings through the corridor. Right now, it's closer to our 60 to 90% where we start to look at some of that kind of things. But the intent is in space provided with the separation of the going away from the multi-use path to the trail and sidewalk. We are reducing our boulevard width, so we only have a 5-foot boulevard, so it makes it harder to get trees in that 5-foot boulevard because a lot of it's needed for snow storage. But we plan to look at possibilities of tree plantings.
Further items for discussion. Dan Miller.
Good afternoon. I have a few questions for you. So first of all, I'm really appreciative of seeing those dashed lines on the trail section. I think that's fantastic. And the question would be, are you going to continue those dashed lines all the way over to, I think, Bass Lake Road? Since it's part of the same project, or it's the same bikeway?
You repeat that. I'm not sure exactly which direction you're talking.
No, this is an extension of the Bottineau or the Brooklyn Boulevard trail, which I think ends at the moment up at Bass Lake Road. So will you be extending the dashed lines on the trail that you're proposing in this section, in this project, up to the Bass Lake Road area? Or could you consider that?
Up to Brooklyn Center, are we talking?
Yes, yes.
It switches to an on-road bike facility when we get to 49th Avenue at this piece. So it switches from off-road to on-road. They have on-road bike.
There's a trail up there that goes all the way to, goes all the way over 100 and goes all the way up to Bass Lake Road.
Part of our project, we won't do this. Also Brooklyn Center that goes up there, so I don't know what they have for this striping will also become part of Minneapolis maintenance agreement that we'll have to discuss with them. So I don't believe that striping will continue.
So part of this is continuity and really being able to giving bicyclists an understanding that this is truly a bikeway that goes someplace. And that's been a problem when we build projects with a bikeway that is undersized and doesn't have any wayfinding on it, no markings, and it goes unused. If we're going to encourage people to use these trails, we need to support it that people actually realize that it's a bikeway. And so to stop this at the Minneapolis border and then to continue it on another, I think it's over a mile and a half up to Bass Lake Road. It's on the other end of the Shingle Creek crossings. Would be a real disappointment. So my recommendation, and if I were to write whatever resolution to help you folks out, would be that that be extended all the way up there to give people an idea that this is a continuous trail that goes there. I'm really happy to see that at least it looks like pedestrian lighting is being put in on both sides.
Proposed, yes. Yep.
And well, so it's proposed. So what happens after this? We're seeing this. We're excited about it. I'm listening to the reasoning that this might not appear yet. We're seeing it in the drawings. Is that correct? In other words, we may not see pedestrian lighting. We may not see dashed lines on the trail.
Right. I mean, we're at 30% concept level, so things do change. Our intent is to put the striping in. Our intent is to use pedestrian level lighting, but we're at a 30% design as well too.
I find those to be very exciting additions that make this a more welcoming experience to drive along a road that's been kind of a miserable road to ride along. So along with the greening that Tyler was talking about, these are important things to encourage people to use this this trail. Something that's missing at intersections, and if you scroll down to one of your elevations, I think, well, yeah.
At one of the intersections, are you talking?
Hang on for a second. Let me see if I can. Well, that's just fine. What I was looking at is when the trail crosses the different streets. So you have Thomas on the right side there, and you have a few others. Is that we just received had a conversation about Vision Zero and decked tabled intersections and marked intersections, and I would hope that that would be a consideration as well here to again provide some continuity on this trail. And along with what Matthew had to say, I think people are going to, whether you like it or not, they're going to continue to pen to that intersection where there is retail. And so you're going to either have bicyclists in the lane, or we design something so they can get there safely. They aren't going to divert and go up Queen and go around the corner and get there. They're going to go straight up. There's one more item that I'm losing my, thank you. I'll come back if I can think of it. But thank you.
Right.
These are just some considerations to.
Cadence, did you have a comment? Your hand is raised.
Hi, yes, I'm not sure if I missed it during the presentation. Thank you, Amber, but I'm just curious if you could speak a little bit more about the 45th Avenue and Osseo Road interaction there. It looks like if you're approaching Osseo from the east, that you're basically forced to take a right. Am I reading these correctly?
To go on to 45th? I'm sorry, say it again?
No, so like if you were on 45th and you were headed west and you get to the intersection with Osseo, it looks like you have to take a right. Like you can't go straight across on 45th like you can now. And I was just wondering what the rationale was for that.
Yeah, so you're correct. It is only a right turn, kind of a right in, right out situation. So most of it comes from the stem from our Victoria Memorial Parkway. We have queuing issues, concerns that come up when vehicles will queue up here to go into the left lane. So essentially they are blocking on some accounts during peak hours. They are blocking the 45th Avenue intersection. So some ways to help with the queuing and safety for those people tend to take risky lefts out of that intersection when they're having to wait. So we kind of put in that median to reduce that conflict point that's there. It does, yes, restrict turn movements, and people will have to, our intent is people to go up to the Victoria Memorial Drive intersection where it is signalized and use that left that's up there.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you. I do echo the concerns about how wide the through lanes are, especially because those lanes are effectively going to feel like 14 feet, 15 feet. And having ridden this area like extensively, both in the Memorial Driveway itself and also the Grand Rounds Trail, like a lot of these intersections are confusing if you're navigating on a bike, and it's not always clear, like people who are driving, like if they're going to yield to you or not. So I do have a strong preference for, you know, those types of considerations being given at any crossing of Osseo, just based on personal interactions that I've had. But because of that, I would also have a preference for biking in the street on Osseo so that I can take the lane if I need to and not have to wonder about if I'm going to have to navigate around or, you know, do two legs of a triangle rather than just taking the direct way. So I think that I would like to see what an option could look like with some sort of on-street space designated to a dedicated facility. And maybe that's not a buffered bikeway. Maybe it's just a, you know, a standard bike lane. So thank you for all of your hard work on this.
Dan, Dan, did you remember what you were going to remember?
I did, and I apologize. Between looking at the screen and trying to keep my thinking straight, I was a bit confused. So my last thought here is that we're at 30%, Amber, and I would imagine that you'll be coming back with more revised things in the future based on that.
Yes, definitely. Yep.
The one thing which, along with, I mean, I mentioned intersections, the dashed lines, the extension of making this a continuous trail. The other piece that I think that is really important to maybe see the next time you come around is what is going on with wayfinding. Okay, so where do you go on this thing? Where do you know? What information tells you that the Queen Bike Boulevard is there, or how far are you from Penn Avenue to Bass Lake Road or stuff like that? I think having a package that talks about wayfinding and what you're actually going to be viewing here to promote biking, to give people that may not be talking about going an advanced distance, but a mile is a big deal, and that they can see those successes. And we just have not, we build a lot of projects here without much wayfinding that helps people find stuff unless they just go out and explore it by happenstance. And some of that would be really helpful. So thank you.
Okay, Amber.
I think the wayfinding is something definitely we have heard is an important piece. I don't know if that'll be done at 60%. That's typically something that is done closer to 90%, but it's noted. Thank you.
It would be just, I think this is an important thing to kind of push on just to see, because we don't know, we don't see it. And what my observations in Minneapolis is that we reconstruct a street with a bike path on the side that's supposed to have striping or something, and it takes close to 2 seasons before you see it actually happen. So being able to open up a new reconstruction with a full menu of stuff that's happening on that thing for all users would be really helpful. Thank you.
I'm going to jump in real quick, and I'll get to Matthew. But Amber, what is the timeline? When is 60? When is layout approval, et cetera, et cetera?
So Kelsey maybe can correct me if I'm wrong. I think in January it'll go to the city council for their concurrence on the layout. And then we will continue into 60%, probably late spring, early summer next year, and wrapping up our final design 2021, and then construction is in 2022.
Yep.
Thank
Amber, I would echo that sounds right from the layout perspective. I also want to say that typically we haven't been bringing these projects back at 60 or 90%. We typically just have been bringing this to the committee at 30. So I would emphasize to get your comments in with us now so we can bring those into the design as it moves into more engineering and final design work.
Okay. Matthew, and I hope we're kind of going to move towards a motion of some sorts, but I know, thanks for the timeline. I know that, I mean, once layout is approved, that's a big deal, big step in it being done. So hopefully we can get a motion here. We can express everything that we're talking about. So with that, Matthew, do you have a further comment, or I'm hoping that you have a motion?
Yeah, I raised my hand to make a motion because I saw Matthew Deardahl's reminder about the time. So I'm going to suggest a motion with 3 parts. The first part is appreciation for the curb protected bike facility. That does feel like a substantial step forward, so I appreciate that. The second part is requesting narrowing of the lane widths. I just think it's unacceptable given what we know, and we all know it, about how lane widths impact speeds and how speeds impact risk and danger. It's unacceptable to have them wider than they need to be, and there seem to be several locations here where they're far wider than they need to be. You know, we're looking at lane widths between 13 and 18 feet, and that's, you know, the county has done narrower lane widths on projects recently, so we know it's possible. And then the third component is to request to see this again at 60%.
Okay, to kind of bring that motion together. 1, appreciation for the curb protected bikeways. That's a good thing. Number 2, we'd like to see a reduction in the lane widths. And number 3, we would like to see this project back at 60% for further comment. Did I sum up that okay, Matthew?
Perfect. Perfect.
Excellent. Dan, do we have a second on this motion before I get to Dan? So we can have a discussion.
I'll second.
All right, Dan seconds. Comments, further discussion, Dan.
Yeah, I'd like to add a third point that we review intersections for raised or tabled intersections with pedestrian crossings, as well as that we encourage that the line treatments on the trail are approved, as well as the pedestrian lighting.
Okay, pedestrian lightings I thought was already in there, so that we can take away that one, right? So this is the 4th part, which is consideration for raised intersection crossings.
Yes, and I think that what I was trying to do, and to give Amber some support that this is a proposed that pedestrian lightings is being proposed here. Dashed lines are being proposed on the trail. We think those are important, and we really believe those should happen in addition to those intersection crossings. And I think the last piece, which didn't get covered, was the extension of some kind of a multi-use trail to Penn. An acknowledgement that that's an important piece.
Okay, so we've got number 1, appreciation for the curb protected bikeways. Number 2, request to narrow the lanes. Number 3, shoot, I forgot number 3.
See it again at 60%.
See it again at 60%. Number 4, possibility for raised barriers across streets. 5, appreciation or need for pedestrian lighting and zebra striping. And 6, a continuation of the path to Brooklyn Center. Is that correct? Did I get the motion all in there?
That's an important one in there too.
The
but it
path,
was
I think, was to Penn, right?
to Penn, but all
Penn. Okay.
the
So
important-
not the Brooklyn Center, but the Penn.
Yeah.
We are good with 6. Anybody else further comments?
Can I clarify just in case it's needed? But when we talk about the raised or tabled crossing, we're talking to carry the bikeway through at through the side streets, right?
Yes.
That's what we mean by that. Okay, just want to make sure.
All right.
I'm
Hearing no further discussion? Question mark?
am I supposed to be writing down this proposal? Because if we are, I'm going to need some help.
Yep. Well, the motions are, well, it's all recorded. Just refer back to the recording. Yes, we'll need to get this down. But hearing no further discussion, question
Chris,
mark?
we have a hand up from Nick, and then I think Dan still.
Sorry, thank you. Nick,
Oh, I proposed wording in the chat for the middle section, I guess, which was the BAC finds the existing lane widths of 11 plus 2 and wide are unacceptable. These widths are proven to encourage dangerous higher speeds and need to be reduced. I don't have the wording for the other ones. I'll let somebody else take a stab at that portion.
okay. I think we don't have any time to wait this out till we get the exact wording on all this whole motion. But I'm going to try to put this together once again. Is there any further discussion on this motion? We good? Speak now. I'm not trying to discourage discussion. I just want to make sure that there's no discussion, further discussion. Okay. So we have a motion. The BAC like to think on this project would like to appreciates staff for the curb protected bikeway facilities. To Nick's language. And again, I forget the third one. Dang it.
Come back at 60%.
Come back.
Come back at 60%. The fourth is the tabled crossings. The fifth is support for or appreciation for zebra crossings and pedestrian lighting. And 6 would like to see a continuation to Penn.
Chris, can I ask a clarifying question on the continuing it to Penn?
Sure.
Just thinking through how that fits in, there is not a bikeway on Penn, and there's not a bikeway east on 44th. So I guess the question for the group is whether they want to have a bikeway that terminates at Penn or have a bikeway that comes around on 44th, which we can do with a bike boulevard. So
I think we meant to say 44th, right? BAC members. That's what I was intending to bring up when I brought it up because it aligns with the transportation action plan.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll clarify that to 44th, not Penn.
sounds good.
All right,
Thanks.
Millicent, can you call the roll? Can you call the vote?
Sure can.
Thank you.
Aaron,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Terry, here. Oh. Dan,
Aye.
Melissa, this is Georgianne. I'm voting yes.
okay, got you, Georgiana.
Okay.
Heather? Heather, are you voting?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Cadence?
Aye for the motion.
Okay. Matthew Hendricks?
Aye.
Nick?
Yay.
Paul?
Aye.
Tyler?
Aye.
Wes?
Yes.
Matthew, you vote?
Yes.
Okay, we've got 12 yeses.
Millicent, this is Robin. I'm here now and I vote yes.
Okay, good. 13 yeses.
Hey, Millicent, I'm here. And of course, I'll abstain.
Who are you?
Jesse Thornton.
Hi, Jesse. Okay, great. 1 abstention and 13 yeses.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. I know it took a long time, but hey, this is a bike thing and it's important, and let's we're here to talk about important things. So that being done, next up is 2nd Street and 3rd Avenue Northeast pedestrian intersection. Kristen?
Hi, I'm Christian Zimmerman, and I'm not sure what this background is that's behind me, but this is what Teams gave me. Anyways, I am the project manager for pedestrian improvements for 2nd and 3rd in Northeast Minneapolis. This location is a block north off of, or 2 blocks north off of Hennepin, and a block to the west towards the river of University. And so since the last time I was here and talked to you all, really what we've done is conducted permanent medians, where currently there is temporary medians that are striped with some bollards. So what we're proposing here is to reduce the travel lanes on 2nd Street Northeast. These travel lanes would be down to 10 feet. And then when you are here at each of the medians, you would have the 1 foot reaction against the median, and then you have the 2 foot of the curb and gutter. So total of 13 feet. So that would be for north and south. When you're along the median, there's a taper to each median with either some striping or along with the median itself to then align to the current configuration of the roadway. No parking stays in its location from the intersection down to approximately where the median would end. We've added some signage for bikes and pedestrians at the intersection for vehicles that are heading north. This is due to the high frequency of crossings that we have here with the multi-use path. We've added additional striping, so the crosswalk would be marked, so would the bikeway, and then also additionally marking the crosswalk on the north side of the intersection. Currently, there is a transit stop, and this would not be interfered with. It would continue service as usual. And then the stop signs would also remain in place, and currently, per an earlier update, cross traffic does not stop was added to these as a safety precaution, and those would also remain. The medians themselves are proposed to be landscaped. And that work is ongoing and will occur later on in this process. With that, I'll open it up for questions and go from there.
I'm gonna hog right in and chime in. I live very close to this. I live like right down the street, and the neighborhood, which you're going to be coming to, I think, next week. Neighborhoods really likes this. I mean, the speed on this street used to be really bad because you came down that railroad bridge, you know, it was an overpass over the railroad, and then downhill, and then not have a stop sign until, not have any stops until 8th Avenue. So people would go very fast on this. And this was a great solution just to get people to adjust their path. It slows the traffic down. And I think permanent will help the pedestrians. I guess one thing that I'm kind of wondering about if there's a, if there is a pedestrian refuge island perchance at all in this or not. But again, that's a pedestrian thing. And, but I do like the fact that the off-street bike path is called out with green striping as well.
Thank you. Yep, for with this, there's not a pedestrian refuge identified in this design. The roadway is 40 feet, so it's not an overly wide area, and the travel lanes have been reduced from what's even there now, just with their widths, because the medians have been enlarged in this design. So really minimizing that crossing distance in which you would have a conflict point with a vehicle. There's really not an opportunity at this one here, just because of having the multi-use path right up against the roadway. Really can't fit anything in over there. This side here, there's a little bit of room depending on the exact curb lines, but not much. If we did explore putting something there that could be relatively small and could potentially lead to some issues of just some turning movements, or maybe a plow nicking it at times, and it could be questionable on just how well such a small refuge beyond the crosswalk may hold up.
And also, I just thought, well, one other thing too, taking this on my bike, the area between the bus stop and a lot of cyclists do take this, so even though it's a state aid road, municipal state aid road, and a bus route, but a lot of people take it on bikes. It's a nice wide street. That's a great alternative to either Marshall or University. And I will say that it's a little bit, you feel a little bit trapped when you're in the area between the bus stop and the median heading towards First Avenue Northeast. And I guess I just kind of wonder how other people think about that, because you really feel like you're kind of pinned there for a while when there's cars coming. So there's no way to kind of avoid the cars. I'm just wondering if there'd be any sort of escape route or anything like that available onto the median or something. Or, this isn't on the bike master plan, so I don't know if there's any consideration for that.
So the medians themselves would be raised with a curb with plantings, and 2nd Street Northeast is on the AAA network. However, that would be identified for a low stress bikeway of something that wouldn't be implemented onto 2nd, especially since it just had a mill and overlay in 2017, I believe it was. So really wouldn't be looking for a reconstruction until the roadway was really at the complete end of its life cycle, at which time then bike facilities would be looked at this. As far as 2nd goes, as a more staple feature for this.
Hello.
Dan, yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Is it possible that I take this too, and my solution to this intersection is just to take the lane? I mean, and I think, I don't know what the width of those lanes, you said they're 10 feet. So that's what I would do, so I wouldn't be crowded out. But maybe there's a way that you could add some Bike Boulevard logos near that intersection, so people that were in cars knew that it was a shared path or something on both the approach, both north and south.
Yeah, we can look into that as an option.
Yeah. I have one other thought, and I am very appreciative of seeing the green conflict zone marking that basically connects this trail that is on the south side. That trail goes from Marshall to Central. To the best of our knowledge, it was put in during the development of this area and is not on the AAA network, but it appears on Google Maps. However, it's in such rough shape that anybody in their right mind would take the road rather than taking the trail. And what that does is it's fine by me, but for people that have maybe less security riding in the street, that trail goes unused and basically is, it's in sad shape. So I guess this intersection that you're doing here, along with the Monroe intersection, which needs to be addressed, and this trail, I think it's worth, if we were to do a resolution on this, just to comment that this is an important thing and that the city really needs to look at deciding how to work with the development there to get this trail fixed, because it's an important trail that you have to go on the other side of the railroad tracks to get to First Avenue, which is a whole different animal. The next bike facility is 8th. So going east-west in this section is rather limited. And again, it takes you to the river or it takes you to Central Avenue.
Yeah, understood. I have had communications with other divisions. Our division that does our maintenance for trails and such, and I have talked to them. And with this is not a trail that the city maintains. It's not something that the city has takes ownership of. So currently, those maintenance requests and maintenance needs are put on to the neighborhood.
I just want a quick comment. It is I've done a lot of research on this. I've worked on this to see who has ownership over this trail for probably about 5 years now. The city just says that they don't own it or they don't maintain it, but it's clearly in the right of way. It was expanded to put in the right of way, and I'm still looking to find any sort of agreement. I mean, what happened to it is the city says it's not our responsibility, and then the homeowners say, well, it's not our responsibility either, so it's not getting done. And frankly, Public Works has just kind of, and that's not the way to get things done. I don't know how anybody can decide, or anybody can have some sort of proof of who actually is supposed to maintain this thing. Because right now it's not getting done, and it's not going to get ever done if we don't have some sort of agreement or some city staff actually finds a document that says who's responsible for it. And that's one thing that I've been working on. And, once I leave the BAC, I'm probably going to work on it more as a private citizen. But, this kind of conversation got away from this and into that trail. But, it's important. And, I did see city maintenance crews do some patches on that trail between Main and 2nd. It's just baffling that the city and Public Works hasn't stepped up to figure out who owns it, or it makes the people, if they say that it's the town owns, that they're responsible to fix it, they need to tell them that, or they need to say that they need or fix it and build it. But right now, just like anything, like if my sidewalk was not plowed, I would get fined. Or if my sidewalk was uneven, the city would come by and make me fix it, or they would pay to fix it and charge me. And the fact that this has gone on I put in requests to my council member, I put in requests to Public Works about why can't this get solved? And it's not getting solved. And it's just one of the things that kind of irks me about some parts of city politics, where if people, they just say, well, it's not our responsibility, and we understand that you're upset and the neighbors are upset, but we're not going to really do anything about it. We're not going to help you. So with that, Matthew, I see that you want to respond.
Yeah, I just want to note that, I think you'll find receptive staff on this call, and Christian and I have looked into this and in a sense exhausted like our options available to us. So what I'll say is, like, I agree with what you're saying, like on the surface, and I heard somebody mention passing a resolution about that issue, and I think that may be a helpful way to communicate to city council and other public works staff about this issue.
All right, do we have any further discussion, or should we try to work on motion.
I just have one quick thing. We just commented that 13-foot lane widths are not optimal, and it looks like here, because of the reaction zone to the median and the reaction zone to the curb, we're at 13 feet again. And so I wonder if the city would be willing to try a 9-foot lane here that would then effectively be a 12-foot lane. I feel less strongly about it here because there's essentially a curve for the driver, because you're going from driving against the center line to avoid the parked cars to driving against the outside curb. So, you know, I think it's a little different situation than what we were just talking about with the Osseo Road, but still, it could be a great precedent to have a 9-foot lane here. So I think it's worth exploring.
So Matt, can I respond, Mr.
Sure.
Chair? So I want to note that the Osseo Road was like between like 3 and 4 or 5 feet wider with the median. I think you could definitely make a case or make a recommendation for 9 feet. I'll note that 13 feet I think will feel pretty narrow, and it'll definitely look narrow too, because it'll be 10 feet of black surface and then, you know, an inside curb of 1. So, and then the gutter pan on the right side will be, you know, 18 inches or 2 feet. So I think it'll look pretty narrow. I don't see us going more narrow than this. But I just want to note that I think this is something that we've worked down to. Yeah, so I'll just note that.
Plus, there's 2 really big, beautiful ash trees that got saved right there too. So it does make it seem much smaller. It does a good job of doing the traffic speeds, I think. All right, I'm going to propose the motion that the BAC supports the plan as presented, with a special request of City Public Works to determine ownership and maintenance of the 3rd Avenue Northeast bike path or / greenway for future improvements on that property. Anybody have a second for that, or want to make any amendment or change of wording?
I would second it.
All right, as seconded, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
I just want to clarify my comment. It was largely, I want to be consistent as we're looking at things, but my bigger picture reaction to this is that I think it's amazing, and I would love to see a lot more of these around Minneapolis. So thanks to the staff team for your work on it, and I hope it becomes a really common precedent.
As like somebody said, this is right down my street and it works really well. So hearing none, we're going to go ahead. Oh, wait.
I have a question or just a comment, and that would be to perhaps add in your language, BAC supports the plan as presented with Public Works to determine ownership of the 3rd Avenue Trail and to consider adding it to the AAA network.
We need to clarify just briefly. It needs to be ownership and maintenance. We know who owns it. It's in the right of way, but we don't know who's supposed to maintain it. So,
okay.
I think the wording could be take ownership of the maintenance. Right, because that's different than owning. Like you said, it's in the right of way, but anyway.
Yeah, take ownership. Oh yeah.
Take responsibility, maybe.
Of maintenance.
Could be responsibility instead of ownership.
Okay. All right, Dan, do you have that typed out? Can you give it a quick read?
Here we go. BAC supports the plan as presented with Public Works to take the responsibility of maintenance for the 3rd Avenue Trail, consider adding it to the AAA network.
I think we wanted it to say that Public Works determines who owns and maintains or owns maintenance over the path? Or are we just gonna sell them to do it? I mean, we don't have the power, but
I like Matthew's idea.
Well, I mean, I'll add context. My department has determined that they aren't maintaining it. Right. So it's,
Yep.
if you ask us to determine it, we'll say we have determined it, right?
no, but we're determining it who. I mean, if you're not saying that the homeowners are you're not doing anything about enforcing them to their maintenance, but I mean, that's the thing. I've done research on this, and I understand that the city says they're not responsible, but that's what the townhomes say. The townhomes say they're not responsible, and I can't find anything. So what I want this motion to be is to direct public works staff to determine and enforce ownership of maintenance on the 3rd Avenue path.
I've got a little bit of wording here, and I'm not sure how we're doing on timing, but maybe this is something that if we can't resolve in a timely manner, maybe we can spend a little time finessing it and getting it to people beforehand. But I wrote down BAC supports the plan as presented with Public Works for the intersection, but wishes to assume maintenance of the but we wish them to assume maintenance for the 3rd Avenue Trail and add it to the AAA network. It needs work. I'm sorry, I'm just not as good as Janet is. But if that's the general scheme of it, I can fine tune it with you, Chris, or Matthew, or Josh, or.
Let's let's chop this in two. Let's just support the plan. Might not be as strong. I was just trying to think, like, let's do the easy part easy, and then the second part we can determine. Because I think hopefully this discussion we can have fine tune it a little bit. Since staff is saying that they are, receptive to doing this work to find out who ownership of this is. So let's just table this motion until the full BAC. Is that okay? Hope nobody Robert rules me here about needing a vote to table it, but all right, let's just table this. We have the general idea. We'll come up with some final wording, and I'll bounce it off of Dan and maybe Matthew and Christian to try to get what we want here. Okay. So let's move on. Thanks, everybody. Sorry that we failed you in getting a motion.
It's okay. Thank you. No failures.
All right, and that brings us to West 31st pet improvements, 30%.
Hey everyone, Amy Morgan here. Share my screen real quick with all of you. So I'm here to talk about the West 31st Ped Safety Improvement Project happening at the intersections of Emerson Avenue and DuPont Avenue. This is for 30%. So as you probably remember when I was here previously, just a little bit of background. Back in 2013, the Public Works Department installed temporary bump outs at each of these intersections with painted curb extensions and plastic delineators or bollards. As you can see in these images below, this is what currently exists today, still out there. So in 2021, we're looking at upgrading this infrastructure to do permanent curb extensions and pedestrian improvements at these two intersections to enhance that crossing. Reducing that crossing distance as well as upgrading those pedestrian ramps to be ADA compliant. So So looking a little bit closer at what's currently here or what's not here, I guess, you can see where those temporary bump outs currently exist. There's also 4 different locations, 3 at DuPont and 1 at Emerson. There's not even an existing curb ramp or any sort of curb cut, which makes it extremely difficult or impossible for people in wheelchairs or other mobility devices to cross at these locations. So as part of this project, we're looking to make those curb extensions permanent, as I mentioned. Also adding in those curb ramps where they do not currently exist, as well as upgrading all of the other pedestrian ramps to be ADA compliant. These curb extensions are 7 feet, similar to what is out there today. They are a bit longer in length, however. This project, the proposal here, offers increased green space as well as some opportunities at Emerson Avenue, specifically for green infrastructure improvements there. So one thing I want to note here is that West 31st Street is on the, it's identified as a bicycle corridor, future bicycle corridor in the Transportation Action Plan. And I'll just note that these curb extensions will not prohibit any sort of future bike infrastructure along here. So make that very quick. I know we're a little bit behind on time. I'll open it up to any questions or comments that you guys might have.
That's a good looking road. Anybody else have any questions?
I have one quick comment. The project looks good to me. The one thing I think that's an opportunity if we're making changes to the curb lines is to also narrow the crossing distances in the east-west direction. So at Emerson and at DuPont, if you're crossing each of those. So I'd request that be added to the design so that all 4 crossing directions get improved.
Yeah, I'll note that we did explore that, and when we looked at the cost estimates, it was just not realistic with the budget that we have for this project, unfortunately. And so those are one-way streets currently. DuPont is one-way northbound, Emerson southbound. And so we do hope that the majority of the speeding is happening, or we don't hope let me reframe that. The speeding that's happening on West 31st Street, the bump outs will help slow down traffic there and just allow pedestrians to be a little bit more visible. So we did look at that, but unfortunately, due to some costs, it realistically is not feasible with this project.
Okay.
Would you like some action on this?
If you guys would like to provide a motion, that would be.
Sure. Real quickly, I'll move to, I'll say that, I'm sorry, Matthew, did you want to make a motion? Or did you want to make a motion to include your comments, or are you satisfied, or?
No, that makes sense to me about the budget. I mean, I think it's, the one concern I'd have is, when will the budget come, and isn't there some efficiency to doing it all at once? But, if you've looked at it, I appreciate that you've looked at it, and I'd rather see the project as proposed move forward than try to wait for more funding here.
And I'll note that we can look a little bit closer at the curb radii, specifically since they are one-way streets, tightening up that curb radii, which would help with showing people you can't turn that way as well. So that could potentially help as well. We'll look at that.
All right, with that, I'm going to make a motion that the BAC approves the, what's the wording now? Supports. Thank you. Support. Thank you. Yes, the VAC supports the project as planned, with the possible improvements of tightening up turning radii on the one-way streets. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Millicent, you want to call the vote, please?
Okay, Chris.
Aye.
Aaron.
Aye.
Aaron, aye. Did you say Chris?
Yep. Chris goes after Aaron, not before.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes, aye.
Dan.
Aye.
Georgiana. You want to vote, Georgiana? She's still here?
Sure.
Heather? All right, Georgiana. Heather? Still here?
Aye.
Okay.
Yep.
Cadence?
Aye.
Jesse Thornton?
Abstain.
Okay. Matthew Hendricks?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Robin? Robin Garwood, are you still here? Wes Durham?
Yes.
Matthew Rideau?
Yes.
Wonderful. 9 yeses and 1 abstention. You folks have left.
Super deal. Appreciated.
Thanks so
Thank you.
much.
All right. Hey, this looks cool. Franklin Avenue, Franklin West.
Hi, my name is Katie White. I'm going to pull up my screen, although I'll give you a heads up. It sort of takes a while to load when I try to share it. I also have a 2-year-old in the background who's very excited about vacuuming and asking my husband to vacuum. So I will just give you a heads up that that might be what you're hearing. Let me make this full screen. I do have 10 slides that I'm going to try to go through pretty quickly. Mostly the same graphic. Oh, and Jesse has a kid too, so we should be buddies after COVID's over. I have the graphic on most of these slides, so even though I'm going to page through them, the material should be fairly consistent, and hopefully you'll be able to see it throughout. And then when I go for questions, I'm happy to change slides, but I wanted to let you know that things are gonna, gosh, did it go away for you guys? Can you still see the screen? Oh, here it is.
Yes.
It's there.
Yes.
Yep.
This happens every single time. And the other thing that happens is I've lost my Teams window. So please interrupt me if there's something technically wrong. I won't be able to see any waving or cute kids or anything in the chat. So a refresher, I was here several months ago, maybe May or June. We're looking at reconstructing Franklin Avenue from Hennepin Avenue on the west to Lyndale Avenue on the east. So it's just 3 blocks, but it's a pretty interesting stretch of roadway. We're spending 2020 coming up with a concept design. We're going to be tying up this 30% process. I'm here today at 15%, but 30% will be done in early 2021, leading to the detailed design and engineering phase, and ultimately construction in construction year 2022. We did engagement over the summer using an open house, neighborhood meetings, and online surveys. And we actually got really good feedback on the online survey. I was very happy with that, showing a strong interest in improving the environment for walking and biking. We did a prioritization exercise on the Survey Monkey, and walking was easily #1, and biking was a close second. Concern about safe travel along and also across Franklin, improving transit, corridor greening, speed reduction for vehicles. And we did get some kind of parking and car access because it's a very it's a dense residential neighborhood on both sides of Franklin. And a lot of comments were colored by the pandemic and this takeout curbside pickup culture and concerns about using transit. So this is the primary graphic I'm going to be referring to. So I'll just do an introduction to the graphic, and then I'll walk through the features that you're going to see here. So you see a bicycle facility in this dark gray. This is the black ice concrete treatment that folks are familiar with. You see boulevard space in the light green, sidewalk space in a traditional concrete color. I will call out that this transit stop is in the wrong location, pulling the transit stop closer to Bryant here is part of it, and otherwise driveway access and everything. This #1 here in the middle between Bryant and Aldrich is the location of this cross section that you see across the bottom. You know, the bike facilities in green, even though it would be in black ice, but hopefully, you know, this is on the north end, ped, bike, boulevard, car space, and then this is the southern end of that. So that's how we'll look at this graphic. So we have some new components, and I'll go through these, as I said, pretty quickly, and then I'm happy to take comments. Looking at the median at Bryant Avenue, making some changes to it, adding green space on most block segments, more comfortable pedestrian space, having a behind the curb bicycle lane on each side, improved bus stops, and retaining 5 parking spaces in the corridor. So first is the median at Bryant Avenue. Of course, Bryant Avenue is designated as a bicycle boulevard today. To the north of Franklin here, this Bryant curves around and turns into the Loring Greenway. It's a highly trafficked bicycle corridor, about 1,200 bicycles per day coming through here. And today, this median treatment exists sort of like this far western part here, and then this far eastern part here is basically what exists today with plantings. And so what we're looking at doing is making it a more substantial feature, including this in the middle here, which is a mountable median for emergency vehicles, but it essentially blocks all left turning traffic for cars. Bikes and peds can make all movements, but not vehicles typically. And so that is a big change. We are also currently showing this as all concrete because of maintenance questions, but that's certainly something that we're looking at taking more feedback on in the next stage of this. The off-street bicycle facility, as I said, gets the dark gray black ice treatment, 5 feet wide in all locations. It doesn't get narrowed at all. It's behind the curb, it's at sidewalk height. It's adjacent to the pedestrian space and then also the boulevard space, so it maintains the 2-foot clear zone on both sides of the 5-foot bike lane. Adding green space to most block segments. Currently, there's no green space at all. The sidewalk goes back of curb, so there's no grass or natemtic grass. Usually when we look at planting trees, we look for a minimum of 4 feet in order to put a small fruit tree. But in this location where the number 1 is, we're at about 10 feet of boulevard space. And that gives us the opportunity to potentially put some larger trees in. It hasn't been determined how many or what breed or species the tree would be, but just a huge, I think this is going to be a dramatic difference for the experience along Franklin from what it is today. Again, more comfortable pedestrian space. Sidewalk will now be at least 6 feet wide in all locations. I think over here as you get closer to Hennepin, it's going to be 8 or 9, I think much wider. Right now we're showing this as a 1-foot tactile buffer strip between the pedestrian space and the bicycle space. So it's visual, it's not a bright red, but it's sort of a rusty red, brick red with almost a truncated dome texture to it to prevent unneeded or unsafe mixing. And the pedestrian space is now mostly against the back of the buildings. It's not on the curbs like you see today. The bus stops is also a really important upgrade here. Currently on Hennepin Avenue, there's 1 bus shelter that's diagonal here on the corner, and it's meant to serve the Route 6 customers traveling on Hennepin Avenue and the Route 2 customers on Franklin. The pole is actually over here, and right now it's just a pole, but it looks like we can fit a standard size Metro Transit shelter here on Franklin, looking at adding electric or other services inside the shelter to improve the customer waiting experience here. This is the start of Route 2, so it does get a high number of boardings. This side of Lyndale and the southwest corner of Lyndale will also have a shelter, but here on the north side of Franklin and the northwest corner of Lyndale, since it is the end of the Route 2, there's no one really waiting for buses here, so we're maintaining the signpost with a bench that currently exists today. We are retaining 5 parking places on Franklin through this project. 3 of them are in the space here, this number 1 that we're showing. This is a parking bay, and it will accommodate 3 vehicles here. And by using the bay, it pulls the cars out of traffic a little bit, giving a little more protected experience for all users. And then there's 1 parking space here on the east side of Aldrich, and then another one here on the east side of that. So for a total of 5. Currently, there are a variety of parking restrictions on Franklin, daytime, evening, or sorry, weekday evening, and weekend are all different. Not sure yet what those restrictions might be. So that was me going very quickly through the design, but I really want to spend most of the time on your questions and clarify anything that needs more information to help inform your comments.
Looking good, looking good. Anybody have any comments? Questions?
I have a question. So first of all, this looks great. This is super exciting to see, especially I just pulled up while you were talking the existing conditions on Street View, just to remind myself since I haven't been there. So great work. I had a question as someone who bikes on Bryant pretty frequently as a route to get downtown. I know between Lake Street and Franklin, even though it's super narrow in there, a lot of times there's vehicle traffic that I imagine is probably coming from Franklin to get to Lake Street, bypassing Hennepin, and they go fairly fast given the conditions. And so I just wanted to kind of throw out there as just an idea to consider if there's a way to cul-de-sac that north end of Bryant at Franklin, using maybe mountable curb as you added for the median, and some grass or something to make it appear not mountable. Just something along those lines, just to discourage that through traffic along the bike boulevard.
So you're saying that the car traffic is usually, I'm guessing, northbound, but maybe also southbound. But I wonder if the northbound traffic is trying to maybe get onto 94 and they're speeding and trying to avoid Hennepin that way. I wonder.
Well, the opposite of that, I guess.
Oh, really?
It's usually, it seems to usually be oncoming traffic that I've encountered.
Okay.
Kind of blazing down Bryant, headed south while I'm headed north by bike.
Okay.
It's not a ton, but it seems like there's usually one or two cars every time I do it, which is one or two more than you'd like to see.
Right. Cool. Thanks for that feedback. I'll ask about that.
Dan Miller. Or sorry, Aaron, are you done? Are you finished?
Yeah, yep, nope, I'm done.
All right, Dan and then Wes. Dan, you're muted.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, just a quick question. Around the symbol number 1 to the lower left, there is like a small, is that an alley there with that little, what's that?
Both of these are driveways.
Driveways, okay. And so same north of that, and then same is true when you go east before Lindale. Those are driveways as well.
Yes, this driveway here is proposed. There's a proposed development for this corridor in the southeast corner of Aldrich. We've spoken with the architect, and while the preliminary proposal is still in the very early stages, the architect believes that this driveway is pretty likely to be there.
So I guess, again, taking the Vision Zero recommendation and what Aaron just said, something like tabled intersections here would be an interesting idea to pursue with the zebra crossing going across it. So there is a clear indication that cars are crossing through a path, and this would be very similar to what was proposed and is being done on Johnson Street, which is again a hill, and traffic is coming off of it, and they are met with a raised tabled intersection across that whole section. Wouldn't be bad to think about on the north side as well.
Yes, we are absolutely exploring tabled intersections on Aldrich and Bryant here, as you mentioned. You know, as you cross the driveways, it'll be flat, but yes, we're looking at tabled crossings on the streets. I've heard conflicting reports so far on tabled crossings and hills, but as you said, we have experience now with Johnson, and so I'm going to see what we've learned from that and see if we can fit that into a 30% design.
Yep. And then what's the interaction with the bus stations and the bike lane there?
Sure. So there's plenty of space. So what we don't have is where the shelter touches the bike space. We don't have that. I don't remember the exact number. Matthew was in the meeting, but it was several weeks ago. There's at least 1 or 2 feet between the back of the bus shelter and the bike facility. Well, it must be 2 feet because we need the 2-foot clear zone. So yeah, it would be 2 feet. And I think that the back of the shelter, like if you're standing in the shelter, you have to walk then south, a foot to walk around and get to your loading zone at the front of the bus. Yeah. I don't believe that the shelter will be open towards Franklin.
I was just wondering if where you have the 1-foot divider that is sort of separating the bike lane from the sidewalk, maybe that's an area that is more visual than actually physical, that in case you need to get out of the way of pedestrians. But maybe you don't need that. I'm just,
Sure, you're suggesting adding another tactile strip on the other side of the bike facility here?
No, between, gosh, I'm sorry, I guess I'm wrong. I guess the tactile strip that you have planned, if people are going to come in contact with bicycles, can bicycles move into the sidewalk section easily, is to get around them. I don't know what crowding is going on. You had mentioned that at Hennepin, that's a fairly busy spot, and I would just think that you might build some space where you'd have a little more of a leeway to that people would be in the bike lane and the bicyclists could move into the sidewalk to avoid them.
Yep, I think that will be an environment that we create. Mm-hmm.
And the third thing, is there any signing that's going to go on here that really says it's a bike lane, like what you have with the symbols there? Will there be anything that will denote that?
Matthew, could you speak to what's typical?
Yes, we will typically do that at the start of each block, with a symbol and an arrow, like you see in the cross section there. So that should be at every entrance to the block with traffic.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Wes, you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just curious about thinking about how that Bryant median is going to work, and I'm like trying to picture maybe where a spot like this is in the city, and just can't think of one, and I'm sure there is. But like, how is that going to work with snow? I'm wondering if like is snow going to be cleared out of that, or will it is there a risk of it kind of building up and it turning into a barrier to be like kind of that you have to get over as opposed to just through?
Yeah, sure. So city crews are already in this area servicing the Loring Greenway Bridge just to the north using a Bobcat, which is a 5-foot blade. And these channels here, 2 for ped and 2 for bike, are 6 feet. So it's not a significant burden to the crew to continue, just move 1 block south and to clear out these channels.
Makes sense. Thanks.
I'm going to share my screen real quick if it's okay, since I heard Wes said it isn't quite familiar with what that might look like. So 40th Street and Cedar Avenue, it'll look like this, and you can see the openings there. It's enough for like the typical Bobcat to get through, and that would be the vehicle type for winter maintenance that would be able to get through there.
Sounds great. Jesse, did you have I'm sorry, Wes, are you finished with your comments?
I'm good.
Jesse, did you have your digital hands raised?
Yeah. The trail on the south side, there's a bend-in treatment along those 2 driveways, but there aren't really any bend-in treatments on the other driveways. I was wondering if there's a specific reason for that, if there's utilities in the way or something.
Yeah, I just had a meeting about that this afternoon, and so I think that this is something that is probably going to change by 30%. There's currently an encroachment on this side of the street, and I think I'm going to be getting guidance to remove that encroachment and make this bike path straighter.
Great, thank you.
Cadence.
I just wanted to say thank you for this design. It looks really great so far. I used that Metro Transit stop over by Hennepin regularly, years ago, and it was a little bit of an issue. So I'm happy to see that has been considered, and that, this is just further proof that bike facilities can also complement other modal users. And this is a really good example of that. So thank you for all of this consideration.
Yeah, thanks. Let me tell you, it wouldn't be possible, except since you're familiar with this corner. This apartment building here has that kind of pretty decorative fence here, and that is 4 feet into the right of way. So we are asking them to relocate it, and that is what is making this possible.
Oh, that's great. I am also pretty certain that was at least formerly, if not currently, owned by Steve Friends as well. So
it was actually purchased 2 or 3 years ago by a native Minneapolitan. He's a very friendly guy, and I had a really good conversation with him.
That is also great news. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
15%, would you like, is there any further comments, or should we have some action on this?
I just had one quick comment, in addition to saying thank you as well. I think this is great, and it sets a great precedent for Franklin Avenue east and west of here, so really, really appreciate it. The quick question I have is whether Aldrich and Bryant on the south side of Franklin could have really aggressive curb bump outs, so that as people are driving along Franklin, they don't feel invited to take a quick turn down Bryant especially. So, still some access for local residents, but not encouraging those turns.
We did look at bump outs already. And I think we talked about it in the very beginning, and we ruled it out for some turning movement reasons, because the median, especially at Bryant, was encroaching really closely. It was really narrowing the area. And so bump outs were sort of like, you could either do the median or you could do the bump outs at Bryant. And then at Aldrich, the concern is because it's a skewed intersection, you run into the same turning movements concerns. But, that was something that was ruled out very early in the process. And now that we're really firming up on this as a direction, I'm wondering if something has changed along the way that makes that worth reconsidering. So I'll ask that question again.
Yeah, I wonder if it's something sort of like what I think was mentioned earlier, that maybe it's a bump out, but it's mountable if there's a large vehicle that needs access. But for the average driver, it's really helps narrow that turn.
Yeah, let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. For the Bryant median, when we talk about is it mountable and like who can use it and everything, let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. This, the ending of this, and then there's this harder line. This area is sort of a sloped, it's not a very steep drop off here on this curb. And if you take like a UPS truck, every time a UPS truck makes this turn, they're going to be using this concrete. So it is pretty tight right now, but I will ask about it.
Thank you.
Wow, this is a monumental project. It's a very important 3 blocks in our city. Thank you, Katie. Do we need 15%? Do we want some action item? Anybody feeling brave enough to propose a motion?
Would it be helpful to just say something about how we support the project at this point and look forward to see future revisions or for future versions?
I'll second that motion. Further discussion, or anybody want to add to the motion?
Maybe we could add something, since everyone said we're all excited about it. Maybe we can say that we're add that verbiage in as well.
BAC, very excitingly, very excited to support the project as presented, and looks forward to future ideations of the project.
That sounds good to me.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Millicent, can you call the vote, please?
Okay, Aaron,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Dan. Dan
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Georgiana, are you there? Let us know if you want to vote.
Yes, I'm here. Yes.
Okay, Heather? Still there, Heather? Cadence?
Aye.
Jesse Thornton?
Abstain?
Aye.
Matthew Hendricks? Matthew Hendricks? I think you're
Sorry,
muted.
I was muted. Aye.
I see your mouth. Was that Heather that said hi back there? Okay,
It was.
Paul,
Sorry, my audio is a little weird.
that's fine. I got you. And Paul, are you still here?
Yeah, I'm here. I like what I see there. Aye.
Okay, great. Wes,
Yes.
you?
Yes.
Great. 10 yes and 1 abstention.
Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. That's a lot of work.
Thank you.
It's
Yeah.
3 little blocks. Well thought out. Very well done. Millicent, thank you so much.
Oh, no problem.
Helping, and thank you to all our presenters and all our participants today, and all of staff. This is a very nice thing to have. And Microsoft Teams, why not? Just kidding, they're getting theirs. I think that takes it. Anybody have any announcements? Announcements, or can we end 15 minutes early? I've been sitting in this chair a long time. So I'm eager to go. So not hearing any announcements, I believe we are finished.
Very good. Have a good one, everyone.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Aye.
Bye, everyone.